How's it going, guys and geeks? Welcome back to the Geek Critique Show. I'm Dakota.
I'm Jen.
And we're going to be talking all about Series 10, Episode 2, Smile, written by Frank Cottrell-Boyce. This is not Frank Cottrell-Boyce's first episode. He also wrote Series 8's In the Forest of the Night, which a lot of people hated, me included. But I think Smile makes up for that episode's mistake quite a bit. I think it was a solid episode. I think it was a return to classic Who form in many ways. And it also was just a nice second episode. It didn't have that sophomoric feel that a lot of second episodes have. It was a proper first romp for Bill's character, I feel.
Yeah, I think this is a really good, first adventure for Bill on the TARDIS. I liked when she thanked the doctor for a good day out.
Oh, yeah.
She said something like that.
She's like, and it was super sincere. She's like, thanks for a good day.
It's like what you say when your friend, I don't know, treats you. So, like when you were a little kid and your friend's mom took you to the zoo or something. Like, thanks, we had such a great day.
Yeah.
It was really cute.
It was a sweet moment.
I really liked her thought process with a lot of things. Very out of the box, but in it at the same time, no pun intended. Like, she asked the right questions, but in really random ways,
and
which I liked.
I think that kind of parallels what us as the audience would say to the Doctor if he were dropping bombs like I have two hearts. Her hesitance to accept that fact, even though she has a sci-fi background, it's realistic because even high concept stuff like that, it shouldn't go over anyone's head. I mean...
Yeah, it's not like if if someone mentioned I have two hearts, you just kind of forget that and keep moving on with the plot. You kind of are like, no, but let's backtrack. You said that. Okay.
You start really thinking about what being alien means, you know?
Yeah, I really like her personality. I like, the way that her and the Doctor work together.
Mm-hmm.
Very fluidly. Yeah, and their relationship is really cool. I like it. Not the same vibe as the Doctor with Donna, but kind of like that similar camaraderie, which I loved Donna. She was...
Donna's probably one of the best of the New Who companions.
Yeah, so, and even though, Bill isn't, as sassy, she's more... I don't want to say, juvenile, but she is more, lighthearted and kind of more just giddy. Even at certain scenes where, the Doctor's kind of that doesn't seem right. There's, a big smile on her little emoji where she's just like, wow, this is great.
Alright, so let's talk a little bit about the emoji bots, or the Vardy as they call themselves, and this need to please humanity. What did you think about the idea, the concept of other people being able to gauge your mood, but you can't gauge your own mood? Kind of forces you to always be in a good mood. Yeah, upbeat.
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite of what we see on social media nowadays, or it's kind of, yeah, you're forced to be upbeat, but you can kind of control the image that you let on about yourself. You can make your life seem so fantastic, even though it's kind of dull, the rest of ours. And I just think that's kind of an interesting thought of, literally on a day-by-day basis, having to keep that facade up. Yeah, it's just insane,
It's a little bit like a Black Mirror episode. Let's talk a little bit about the emoji bots and the reason that they turned evil whenever anyone got sad or grief-stricken.
I thought the concept of grief being a plague was really interesting. Just that, you're literally not allowed to feel. You need to be happy. They're very literal beings, these little bots.
They really didn't think too far ahead when they programmed these...
yeah, who the heck designed these?
These Vardys, because death is inevitable and grief is inevitable, so how could they not factor in that into the makeup of these robots that seek to please? Wouldn't they incorporate some sort of oh, here, I'll make you feel better, let me do some tricks for you, or something silly, because these robots are a little bit silly if you break it down.
Yeah, with their little emojis.
I thought their faces occasionally were very cute.
Yeah,
actually.
they were super
whenever they were
cute.
puzzled,
or whenever they didn't trust the people, it was two little slits with the dots underneath. They're
yeah,
I don't trust you. That's the look I give Dakota sometimes. I'm
yes. What do you think about the filming location? That was beautiful.
That was really pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, at first I was like, this can't be a set. This is...
No, it's too perfect.
This is too... these hallway scenes are way too long to be a set. What is this? So Dakota looked it up.
Yeah,
where is it?
It's in Valencia. It's a place called the City of Arts and Science. It's a building, and it perfectly fit the Doctor Who spaceship vibe created by robots because it was so sci-fi and out there.
Yeah, no, it was really beautiful, and I definitely want to go there.
Yeah, the white walls really like bring the design to a different place.
Yeah, and I liked that. I liked how the architecture was so beautiful, but yet so simple, so that you really could just focus on the characters. Because really, you know, as Stephen Moffat said in his little spiel that he gave before the episode came out, like, this really was an episode about Bill and the Doctor and their dialogue together and their connection together, and I think they pulled that off quite well. And keeping the background such a clean slate, I think that really helped, but it was still interesting to look at as well. So yeah, I think that's very cool.
Now, was there anything that you didn't particularly care for in this episode?
Well, one thing that we had kind of talked about was him saying, like, this is the end of the human race, when we know that he's encountered other ships that fled Earth when it evacuated, so it's not the end of the human race.
Not necessarily, no.
And which this is terrible, but I never, like, I guess the way that the pods show up at the very tail end, like, after he's about to explode it, I never felt like they were actually in danger, because he could just go and undo what he did, you know what I mean? So that urgency to me wasn't really there. It was almost like, woo, almost killed humanity.
Yeah,
thing, but it wasn't like...
It was very easy for the Doctor to reverse the blowing up process of this spaceship. But I felt the urgency was there when they realized the threat to the population that was waking up there on the ship.
Yeah, but I just felt like he could just undo it.
Not for like blowing up the ship, but for like when they realized what happened to the other, the skeleton crew. That they literally turn into skeletons.
Yeah, I thought that was a bit cheesy too, that the skeleton crew turns into skeletons. Haha.
Why would these robots who just learned to kill humans start using their bones as fertilizer, as a calcium fertilizer?
You know, for such daft little idiots, they're quite
clever.
They're thrifty.
Yeah, they'll use whatever they got.
They put everything to good use. I liked the, like, really small microbots, like a swarm of them. That
Vardy, yeah.
That was scary, and I feel like they could have definitely did more with that, like, more scenes of kind of like Alfred Hitchcock's birds, like, just swarming in. Like, I feel like that actually, like, there was a lot of potential there that they could have utilized a little differently. But I thought, like, the threat of them was scary. Like, that was creepy. You know, the thought of being attacked by a swarm of microbots. That's spooky. To me, I felt like it was just more a fun, laid-back episode, but I never felt like, oh, wow, someone's, like, actually in danger. And that might just be because of how cute the little Vardy bots were. I don't know.
Well, you touched on something earlier. I'm going off a bit. But you spoke about the Doctor actually mentioning that he's met several of these ships, or he's landed on several of these ships over the years, colony ships or generation ships that literally carry a remnant of humanity away from disaster. And immediately you think of one of the Fourth Doctor's first stories. The Ark in Space is one of those colony ships.
Why build all this and send it into space?
I say, it couldn't be some sort of survival kit, could it?
Survival?
Yes, you know, the sort of thing they shove in lifeboats and things.
You're improving, Harry.
Am I really?
Yes, your mind is beginning to work. It's entirely due to my influence, of course. You mustn't take any credit.
But we also had in the 11th Doctor's second episode, Beast Below, if you remember correctly, that was also a generation ship or colony ship of the entire UK, I believe, on the back of a space whale.
Yes, I like that episode a lot, actually.
So if there are any more of these, like, generational ships or colony ships that I'm missing, let me know in the comments.
Yeah, definitely let us know, because
that
kind of just bugged us, because it's like we've seen this before, this concept before. This did feel new and this did feel fresh in a sense, but it's not like brand spanking new.
Yeah, and this is
kind of new.
This is story number 266 for those who are counting, so I'm sure we've forgotten plenty of concepts very similar to this. One thing that I hate in sci-fi series, it's a problem that occurs when a show has too little of a budget. When they show the ship's crew or the generational ship, there's only about 10 people that wake up, even though all the pods are waking up. And it's just like, you couldn't have hired some extras. You couldn't have like made free extras and just had a non-disclosure agreement signed amongst everyone so that this didn't get out. I mean, it's not like there are any huge spoilers in this episode. That bugs me in pretty much all sci-fi series, that they just can't get a background going for them.
Yeah, and I guess maybe that could have helped with the urgency. I felt like I got the scope of it when you saw all of the pods there, but that's true. Like, I guess they could have hired people. When they had just like those 10 to 20 people that the doctor was lecturing, I just figured those were coming. No, I just figured that those were maybe like the leaders, you know, the important people, because in any emergency situation, you try to like get things under control before alerting the public so that mass panic doesn't spread. So that's just how I took that, as like they were telling, you know, people, but I don't know how you could choose in the pods. Like, does it say important person labeled on the pod so that you're like, oh, you're the one I'm going to talk to, and you, and you, and you? Or were those just like the first 10 people that showed up and they were like, stop everyone else from coming forward and you guys listen to me? Yeah,
that was definitely what it was. It was just the first 10 people that came forward, because
what if one of them just went into like full panic frenzy? No, we're gonna die!
Well, that's kind of what they did. They just
they all just went bonkers. That's true.
They grabbed weapons, didn't listen to the doctor at all.
Typical human behavior at its finest. Yeah. Humans suck. I enjoyed the concept of, which we've seen this before, like another paradisaic planet. I thought it was cool that they're basically trying to build a paradise, but then you still have the inevitable death, grief, suffering that, you know, kind of like on Earth plagues today. Humanity. Yeah, like these things that plague humanity, and no matter how much money you have or how much you're able to accomplish, like you're always going to deal with these things, and grief is just like a natural part of life that is pretty much inevitable. Well, not pretty much, is definitely inevitable. They're taking their problems, their human problems, over to this other planet that's like supposed to be perfect, and boom, grief hits you again. I think it's okay. It's good and bad. They kind of establish like all of the key things that happen when a people are trying to colonize an area or make a different world for themselves. Like similar to when the Europeans came to America for the first time, the problems that they had to face, you know, when kind of starting things up, like their slave class revolting against them. And it's interesting, you know, that they kind of bring up these basic things of like, okay, so you came here in the pursuit of happiness, i.e. the little things of like, be happy, smile, and then your slave caste revolted against you, and you still have the basic things that every other human have to deal with. So you, like, again, like, you can't just escape problems. And I feel like whenever people try to like take over a country or something like that, they're facing similar, to me, was very reminiscent of colonizing America and some of the problems that went on here because of that, in the pursuit of happiness. I just thought, like, I don't know if that's directly what they were talking about, but to me, I got some key vibes of like, because he said, I wrote it down, like every slave class in history, the Vardi are beginning to have ideas of their own, i.e. the slaves that the Americans had. It's interesting you touch on that, because while Bill is looking through the ship, she ends up going to a room that is full of Egyptian artifacts. And everyone on the ship appears to be of Indian origin. I thought it was weird that they would have Egyptian artifacts, and Egypt is historically known for having a lot of slaves. Oh yeah. So that might be symbolic. Yeah, because that's true. Because I was like, is that Nefertiti? Like, I was a little, like, we were kind of looking at, you know, all of those little things, and that's true. I hadn't thought of it that way. Possibly. Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of like underlying themes here that I'm kind of just scratching, or we're kind of just scratching the surface on. So definitely tell us your thoughts on that. Like, maybe there's someone out there who got this a whole lot better than we did and is able to put it back together, you know, into like a concise couple of sentences, unlike me who's rambling. Early on in the episode, Nardole comes into the TARDIS, seems very upset that Bill is there, and says, you've made a promise, you've made an oath, that's the word that he chooses, not to leave Earth because of this vault. And the doctor actually says, something happened, and then another thing happened, and now I'm here on Earth. What is this thing that happened? Will we find out? Obviously we will find out, but I'm just so curious now, because the what mysteries, is in the vault? Yeah, the mystery's building up episode by episode.
And you brought up something earlier, like, are we seeing these episodes in a linear order? Has Bill already had her memory erased?
And yeah, that's something that I was kind of thinking, because if you look at her like train of thought and the questions that she asks, for some reason, and I could be completely wrong, but for some reason it strikes me as slightly different than other companions that we've seen before, like her thought process. And to me, it seems like she has had her memory wiped before that last time that the doctor almost wiped her memory, and that maybe this isn't her first rodeo necessarily.
Right.
But I could totally be wrong. Because that could have just been kind of alluding to the fact that the doctor had his memory wiped, as some of you guys commented, which made a whole lot of freaking sense.
Let's go down that rabbit hole a little bit, because in the first episode, the pilot, we did see several seasons pass. We know that Bill was visiting the doctor, it seemed very regularly. And throughout that period of time, we slowly see her and this other girl, Heather, kind of like do a dance around each other, and then they see the sentient oil puddle. It seems like a year later almost, that adventure actually picks up. Is it possible that the doctor's been taking Bill on adventures this whole time, and then the one time he goes to like erase the memory of Heather and the sentient oil puddle from Bill's memory, she decides, no, not this time. I want this memory to stick, and the doctor lets her have it.
Yeah, because even like when she says, you know, with the oil puddle, have you been into like sci-fi stuff, like lizards in their heads or something? It just seemed
specific.
It seemed specific, and to me it seems like the doctor is like kind of, but he's always like that because he's so used to answering these types of questions that it could just be that, but it seems very routine at this point, and they do function really well together. But again, like, that's kind of what you cast for. You cast for two actors that work well together, so it could be a number of things that are leading to this feeling. But to me, it kind of feels like she thinks it's her first time doing this, but he's worked with her before.
Right. And while we're on the topic of the sentient oil puddle, a lot of you made comments that this was the same monster that we saw in The Waters of Mars, one of the 10th Doctor's last stories, probably one of my favorites. It's one of the stories that I introduced people to, along with Blink.
And Girl in the Fireplace.
Oh, that's my favorite of all time. The Waters of Mars has a very similar-ish villain, in the sense that when it possesses like a human form, it's dripping water, but the main difference is the lips aren't drying up, cracking, like they did in the Waters of Mars. And the Waters of Mars villain is called the Flood. The doctor never mentions that it's the Flood. He actually does mention that it's a sentient oil puddle from some ship.
But also, too, the Flood couldn't travel through space and time, so...
Yeah, the Flood had to find its way through cracks to get places. There's no way...
Which we saw this doing, too. It, like, went underneath the door to the doctor's office at the university. But it didn't, like, travel through, like...
time and space.
You know, it didn't go to Australia.
Or 23 million years into the future.
Yes, it's similar. The past episode that we had didn't lead us to the conclusion that they were the same.
Yeah, and you can look it up on the TARDIS Wikia. They are two completely different entries with two completely different set of abilities. Whether or not the Flood has evolved into this non-villainous sentient oil puddle doesn't really make much sense. I guess to each their own. Now, at the end of this episode, we do see a glimpse at the next episode. And we did not watch the Next Time trailer, so please, no spoilers for the Next Time trailer. We know that the title of the episode is Thin Ice.
And they're on the Thames.
Yes, they're on the Thames River. It's frozen over. For some odd reason, there is a elephant walking across it. I don't know how thin that ice is, but it can't be that thin if
That's a good point.
An elephant walking over it.
What's he doing there?
It looks interesting.
It does look interesting.
There was also some question of whether or not I was looking at production notes for the last episode, because I guessed the fact that the title of the episode was originally going to be called The Girl with the Star in Her Eye. But that's just typical Moffat writing. He always... The girl in the fireplace.
Yeah, that was actually pretty hilarious.
The impossible girl. But no, I did not look that up. I have purposely been avoiding production notes for this season.
It's hilarious because we've been going completely out of our way after Dakota got spoiled for one thing. Like, we've been avoiding it all. So when Dakota said that and someone commented, like, you looked at production notes, we were kind of laughing. Like, no, Moffat's just kind of predictable sometimes with his naming.
Sorry, we guessed it.
Sorry, Moffat.
Anyway, guys, if you have watched up to this point, what should the keyword this week be?
The boy on the couch.
The keyword this week is the boy on the couch. If you've got this far, let us know.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.